Hello and welcome to this week's Behind the Sounds. I have all the way from Nashville today, Jason Saenz with me. Hello, how are you?
I am great. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. We were just kind of chatting about how things are slightly getting back to normal in Nashville. So what are you doing? Are you still kind of writing from home, or are you getting a bit out there a bit more?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's most of my friends are still doing the Zoom writing thing, which is, I think kind of all of us are used to it and tired of it, but still, I mean, there's some really good things happening with like just being able to do this. It's a lot easier it's a lot easier to get a hold of each other because none of us have anything to do. So
Yeah.
let's finish that song tomorrow. Yeah, let's do that because you have nothing to do either. But yeah, most of us are still kind of in quarantine. There's a little bit more things like opening up restaurants, like I think at half capacity right now.
Yeah.
But how about you guys? Are you guys still completely locked down?
Yeah, pretty much. We're getting there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Slowly but surely. So yeah, it's all good. So how long now have you been in Nashville?
Oh, 2007? 2007. So do the math. Was that 13 years? 12, 13 years? Yeah. Ooh, Taylor Swift's lucky 13, hopefully.
Yeah, there you go. So what was it? Was it always kind of when you decided you wanted to make music, was it always kind of, I want to go to Nashville, that's the place? Or did you kind of toy with other places as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Nashville was always kind of it for me. Ever since I was like a child, other kids would go to like Disneyland or Disney World. My parents would take us to Memphis and Nashville and to Music Row. So it's kind of their fault that I ended up here. But no, yeah, I think Nashville was always the end goal. I spent some time in Austin, Texas, which is another like music,
Yeah.
live music capital of the U.S. I know that, but it's a really cool town. But I spent some time under the sky studying, obviously, music at the University of Texas, so that's why I was there.
Right.
But I happened to like score a chance to kind of intern and work for this guy named Bruce Robinson.
Nice.
He's an amazing lyricist. Like he wrote "Traveling Soldier" by the Dixie Chicks all by himself. He wrote it "Angry All the Time," which was a #1 song for Tim McGraw.
Mm-hmm.
Just some amazing songs. So yeah, I think even he kind of turned me to Nashville because I think if you're going to be a writer, it's just the best place to be,
Yeah.
And as some of the best writers I've ever, I mean, spending time in LA and New York, and there's just a story factor to how Nashville does things. It's a beautiful thing,
Yeah, definitely. So when you first started, like when you moved to Nashville, obviously you were saying you kind of interned a bit, but what did you do to start out? Did you like play gigs, or did you just try to find other people to write with? Did you have a plan?
No, and no, unfortunately, I was just young and stupid, right? Like, I didn't have a plan. I knew another person who went to college with me. Her name was Melissa, and she happened to work. While I was still in Texas, she started moving her ranks through Nashville, and she was an A&R person by the time I got here.
Right.
So it was really nice to have someone that I think she kind of helped me like get my feet wet with. Is that the right term? But
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Going on everything like. That was really cool. I didn't have a plan. She would just tell me like, I got a crappy job, like at a bank, worst bank teller ever, by the way. But she would call me in like every 2 weeks. We were best friends, and she would just say like, hey, here's a CD of everything that we're listening to right now that we love. And I just remember thinking like it was a CD with Chris Stapleton demos on it, Hillary Lindsey demos, and Sean McConnell. And I remember thinking, oh, hell, this is going to be so hard if you got to be this good.
Yeah.
But it was such a great, that I think that's kind of, I didn't have a plan, just kind of started bouncing around, finding your people, I always tell young writers, it really is worth the time and the effort. You might take a few years to like just go to bars and have a beer and meet another songwriter who might turn into like lifelong songwriters. You know, I met my buddies Brent Cobb and Neil Medley. I mean, we were all just babies, and well, drunk babies, because we were just getting hammered all the time on like Music Row, and just starting to write songs, you know, and I met my like forever friends and writers in like the first couple of years, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did it start to go from, was it always quite serious for you? Were you always there like, this is it, I want to be a writer? Or was it kind of fun at first and then turned into, right, need to get serious here? What was like the vibe like?
That's funny. That's a good question, because I think I was always, even since I was like a little kid, I always just wrote things down. I think, and unfortunately, I don't know if I do a lot of things for fun anymore. I remember thinking like, God, I really like this feeling of writing something and being creative,
Mm-hmm.
and then wanting. I'm a pretty goal-oriented person. Enneagram 3, if you don't know what that stuff's all about. But yeah, no, it was always pretty serious. Like I loved like getting to study under Bruce Robinson, for instance, like, and seeing what his life was like. I was like, well, I want that. Like, you know, it was amazing. I got to see what you know, he would go out and play Thursday, Fridays, and Saturday nights, and to see people sing songs back. And he wasn't even like, he was just a songwriter, that they were singing his George Strait hits back to him and his Traveling Soldier back to him, and everyone in the room knew every word. And I was like, I fell in love with what that might feel like, you know. So I think I always kind of took it seriously. It's super fun, obviously. It's like, this shouldn't be a job.
No.
Like, it's really, I mean, that's my office back there, you know. So it's like, it's guitars and beer somewhere. So
a good job.
yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing job.
So when did you officially start music full time? Because I'm assuming when you first moved, you had kind of the odd, obviously you were saying bank teller and things like that. But when did it hit that you were going to do it full time and you kind of were able to?
Yeah, I think so. I moved in 2007. 2010 was my first publishing deal.
Yeah.
And I got really lucky. It was a little bit before that, which was great. I had gotten my first cut ever when I didn't have a publishing deal.
Yeah.
I had written a song with my buddy Adam Hood, who we still write to this day, forever friends, like I said. And Frank Liddell was his publisher. Frank, who produces like Miranda Lambert. And Frank happens to be married to Ann Womack. And he loved the song. And I mean, it was funny, like, he didn't know I you know, we were just buddies, because we both went to the University of Texas. But he would always, I would just kind of be around Carnival Music Publishing, and he was just like, you write songs, don't you? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, did you write that one song? It's called, I forgot what the song is called, actually. I'll think of it in a second. But he ended up pitching it to his wife, and she cut it with, like, Tony Brown. I remember the moment, I remember thinking it was so real, because that was the moment I knew it was going to happen. Someone called, the assistant for Tony Brown called me 2010, and it was like, hey, Tony needs the lyrics. Here's his email. Can you double check the lyric and send it to over, because Leanne's cutting it right now. And I was just like, just shaking. Like, I thought spelling like Tony Brown or entertainment.com was just, it took me 2 hours to do, it felt like, you know. But that's when it really turned. And then after that, just a publishing deal came after that. I signed with them, with Mark Bright.
Yeah.
And I met my publisher in that deal. Her name's Stephanie Green. And we've been working together since. So she hasn't been able to get rid of me for 10 years. So
yeah,
she's kind of my champ, you know. So she literally knows, I think, every word and piece of music that I've ever written from then. Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, if you're gonna have anyone to have your first cut, Ann Womack's pretty high up.
Yeah, that
What
was.
was that like? Just when you obviously, because I know when artists get songs, it can sometimes take a while for them to actually cut it and release it. So what was it like when you actually kind of first heard it for the first time?
Oh, it was awesome. It was. What was the funniest thing about that is I've heard it. I've heard the cut. That actually that record didn't come out, which bummed me out.
Mm-hmm.
But it 10 like not 10 years, 9 years later, I ended up getting another Ann Womack cut
Yeah.
with Brent Cobb. But going back to that first song, we didn't know it wasn't gonna. I mean, but I had heard it, and it was hearing her voice on anything that you've done is one of the most she's one of the most amazing, beautiful country voices I think I've ever heard. So that was a great moment for me, knowing like I did it, and we're both Texans, me and Leanne, so I just had a really good connection with her, and she was great. And honestly, the first time I actually heard her sing our song, we were at Frank's, hanging out at a Halloween party, and we were all just having beers around the kitchen table, and there was a guitar, and me and Adam, someone asked us to play the song, and I was singing the second verse, and Leanne started singing background vocals, and
Amazing.
I about pissed myself. So, yeah, it was an incredible moment, like in time for me to have that first one,
Yeah, definitely. And kind of, I'm going to jump forward a little bit here.
Yeah.
You've written with so many people and had so many cuts in the last 10 years. 4 people we have to talk about, we can't not. Little Big Town. So 3 cuts on 3 of their last 5 records. So Pavement Ends, which was on Tornado, Stay All Night on Painkiller, and then most recently Trouble With Forever, which is on Nightfall. What is it like? They are renowned for being like the nicest people in Nashville, the best people to work with. What is it like working with them and knowing them?
Oh yeah, I mean they're amazing. It wouldn't be great if I was just said the other thing. Just to be the one guy in the world that said that, but I can't. No, they're amazing people. They gave me. I mean, honestly, they gave me my first big shot.
Yeah.
And I'll never ever not thank them for that. Pavement was such a huge leap forward in my career.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of those things that that was me and Brent Cobb's first write together.
Oh wow, really?
That was our first write. I remember it lasted 10 hours. Because we were that's when we became buddies,
Yeah.
And then you realize, he's a Georgia guy, I'm a Texas guy. We were writing a song about a dirt road, which is not new in country, but the way we did it, and it just felt like no matter where he's from and where I'm from, we were kind of just writing about the same dirt road, and it was really cool, and it was really fun. But no, back to Little Big Town, they're awesome. They're just a great hang. They're fun to write with, and they're prolific. They make great song choices. I mean, who saw Girl Crush coming? That's just, I mean, you could quit after that and be I'm still dope 30 years later, know? And then they come with Better Man. I mean, they're just amazing. Yeah. They've always been good at great song choices. I'm a little biased, but, all the records are great. I mean, everything this Nightfall is a beautiful record, and the few that made with Jay Joyce before that were just so cool. Tornado was, I felt a game changer for.
Yeah. So I was going to say, you said kind of Pavement Ends was a game changer for you, but I think for them as well. I mean, Pontoon was their first #1, and they've been a band for 20 years at that point. So to be a part of that record as well, when they literally blew up even more after that, what was that like?
I didn't know it was their first #1.
I think so, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What was the question about after that, though?
What was it like being part of that record in particular? Because that was, for them at the time, that was their biggest record.
When Pontoon came out, I just remember thinking, oh, this song's huge. Mm-hmm. And obviously, the just some great people that wrote that song, and it's just great writers. And yeah, when that record came out, I remember they held a listening party for the writers, and it was like, oh my gosh, I was like, I don't know if I should be here. It was, Hillary and Luke Laird and Chris Stapleton and all these like Lori, just everyone that could be there. But when Pontoon came out, I remember it's back when records were still like, it was right before, like right when the streaming thing was happening, but I think they had sold like 110,000 records in the first week. Went gold in a few weeks. And I mean, Pontoon was a monster. And it was just, and they could play that. That's one of those records I felt like you could just play back and forth and not skip any. It was such a great record.
Definitely. And then kind of we're saying like Tornado was their biggest album, and then came Painkiller, which was even bigger. Obviously had Girl Crush in, but I know a lot of Little Big Town fans will join me in saying that Stay All Night, which is the song you co-wrote, one of the best songs they perform live. I know I've seen them live play it. I know they did it at CMA Fest, and they've done it at various shows. I think I've heard them say how much they love playing it. So was that your first write that you did with Jimmy and Philip of the band?
That actually was. Now just thinking about it, that was the first time me and Brent, who we had written Pavement, we only wrote with them for Painkiller maybe twice. And the first song we wrote was Stay All Night. That was Jimmy and Philip on that thing. I mean, and everything that the girls added, if you were to hear like the work tape versus like what they did to it, or the demo, I remember thinking like after I demoed it, Brent Cobb sang the demo vocals, and I just remember walking out of the studio being like, I feel dope. That is great. I was like, I don't know what they're gonna do, but that's gonna be hard. I mean, we went after it on the demo, and I'll send it to you. I think you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
But and I remember Jimmy calling me, and I guess they had just like ran out from the Publix parking lot and got into their truck to listen to it, and it was him and Karen on the phone, and they were like, "Dude," it was like 4 minutes after I sent it to them.
Amazing.
But yeah, no, what they did to it, and Jay Joyce is a producer god, the first time I ever heard the cut, I was sitting in an A&R meeting, and they played me the first 20 seconds or first 10 seconds, and I was like, this is not it. That's not mine.
Yeah.
And then I heard the intro when they go, "Wish we could stay up," and I was like, oh my God, that's our song. But I mean, it was what it transformed into was their live thing, like their explosive energy, as far as a band goes, and their harms and the way the girls pulled out the last note, and just seeing what they could do with, like, they played it on the ACMs and Fallon with horns.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's just cool, It really is so cool. I love that song so much and that was such a great co-write. We had a blast in, just boys being boys for like 4 hours, like more than that. But it was so much fun.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say how different it sounds from like demo to what they released, because that's one of the things I think about Little Big Town. They're so good at a song that you've heard 100 times over. They'll change it up. I know, like, when obviously you were just saying about Girl Crush was big, I remember then they did it with strings and they did it with this and that, and they just switched things up. So to hear, like, as you said, like the magic that they put on it must have been so cool.
Oh, it really is. Like, seeing them, I remember being in the studio for Painkiller. They were at like Jay Joyce's church studio, which is as cool as you can think it is. And I just remember, like, so we were doing we did a few days where songwriters would come in, and while they were making the record, we were still writing at the church. So it was like, like Natalie would have the girls upstairs while Jay was writing with them, and then Jay would come downstairs, and me, Philip, and Jimmy would be writing, and it was just like the coolest vibe ever, because the whole studio just felt like you were in the 70s, and everything was just like red and blue, and so many lights and so many salt lamps everywhere, and it just felt very creative. And seeing them like literally finish writing and go upstairs and start their recording process. I think Jay said he would record their vocals at about the time that they would play live shows.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
7 or 8 p.m. they were basically like playing a live show upstairs in the big room.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was amazing to watch. It was just so much energy. It was very, very cool.
So obviously, so you had 2 hits with them with those 2 songs, which are, I mean, I think Jimmy sang lead on both of them, and then Philip on Sterile Night as well.
Yeah.
Kind of flipping from that really high energy, fast paced songs, and then you turn up on Nightfall with Trouble with Forever, which is literally the most heartbreaking song ever. I mean, obviously that says a lot for you as a writer to be able to switch it up like that, and for them as a band. Can you talk me through that song? Because as I said, it is just a heartbreaker.
Yeah, no, that honestly is like the biggest compliment for a guy who I lean more to the more emotional writing of things. Like I sad songs are my rap songs. They just get me so fired up.
Yeah.
But yes, I wrote that with Sarah Hayes and Mark Beeson, who I had written with Hazy. We call her Hazy for for 4 or 5 years, and it's just a beautiful voice, melody, lyrics. She's great at everything, and that was the first time we had ever written together with Mark Beeson. Sarah had written with them before, but that combo was new.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a Forever title, but Mark, I think, had the Trouble with Forever. I remember just thinking, oh, we have a Forever title today. Like, we should chase that. And that was originally, I think, Mark's title. And we started chasing it, and he had this beautiful guitar thing that started moving down, and it didn't feel, at first the demo doesn't even feel very country. It feels a little just songwritery cool. And we finished it in one day. And and most of the time my role as a lyricist, like especially with Sarah, is the line's not done until she cries a little bit.
Yeah.
When she gets a little teary after you say something cool, like that second verse was just like hard to write about, like that stuff, like divorce basically. The first verse, it was just a beautiful, like, I felt like we wrote it in 2.5 hours.
Wow.
There's so much, like, it's a true co-write when so much of each of us is in that song.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I mean, just all of us, going through marriages and breakups and loss of life. I mean, that last verse is about Mark's parents.
Yeah.
It was heartbreak. He actually told us that story while we were about to write that last verse. And I know Sarah did too, but I just remember saying, we have to do that. We have to put that in there. And I was like, is that going to be too hard? And he was like, no, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
And that song, and I remember thinking I felt it was special. And I know, speaking to Sarah basically all the time, I was like, there's something to this one. Like, it's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
That hook, Mark, and just how everyone got there, and it's that aha moment.
Yeah.
Of going, oh man, we all need a drink after that hook. So.
And I spoke to Hilary Reynolds, who co-wrote on Next Year, and we spoke about the song on the series, and we basically said it's one of them songs where every time you listen to it, there's someone different you think of. And that's what I think so great about it, is that it just resonates with so many people.
Yeah.
But was it was it written for Little Big Town, or was it just a general co-write and then it kind of found its way, because it works so perfectly ending the record?
Yeah, no, it wasn't a Little Big Town thing. It was just we were just trying to write the best song that we could. And I think at that time, that's the first time I met Mark. Everyone just hit it off, and we were just trying to write just a beautiful, like, 3-part story kind of song. I didn't even it actually sat around for, like, I would say, like, 2 or 3 months. Like, my publisher Stephanie, like, ran out the door with it. But it's really hard to get a ballad cut these days, you know, without the artist wanting to write those things. But we just knew we had something. It's just one morning I was kind of drinking coffee and listening to songs, and I knew that they were, like, starting to think about, obviously talking to Jimmy and everything all the time, that they were thinking about it. And I just listened to it one morning, and I was like, I wonder if this is a Little Big Town thing. And it felt like our demo sounded kind of super country.
Yeah.
And so I just took a shot, texted Jimmy, and was like, hey, man, I just like this a lot. And here's a song. Tell me to F off if you want. All good. And so I texted it to him, and then I called Sarah, and we were scheming. And I was like, hey, send this to Karen too, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, you send it to Karen, I got Jimmy. And then 10 minutes later, like, we were getting calls, and Karen and Jimmy were like, don't pitch it. It's ours. What's the deal with this? Who's the publishers? Who's the other writer? Like, we want it, lock it down. And that was, like, I think one of the first 1 or 2, I think Next to You was, like, one of the first 2 things they did for Nightfall.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, so obviously you just said Sarah, you were like, get Karen involved. So she had another cut on the record as well with...
Yeah, Questions, right?
Is probably on par with one of my favorites of the record. So did she have that cut already, do you know? Or
no, they actually wrote...
first.
Yeah, we wrote Trouble with Forever first. And I think they all had, like, a beach retreat that Sarah's publishers like hosted. And I think, like, Brothers Osborne's, those guys were there, and Jimmy, or the whole band. I think Philip. I think everyone went, and Kim. They all went down to the beach, and I think Sarah got paired up with John Green, who's a Englishman.
Yeah.
Fantastic guy. That guy's amazingly talented and a good human being. But yeah, so I think they wrote Questions with Karen that trip.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I remember Sarah and I and my buddy Todd Clark, we wrote another song with them, with Jimmy and Philip. And right when we were writing that, I think they told Sarah that they were, like, cutting it, like, Questions and stuff. But we wrote another song that day that they cut. It's a banger, and I love it. It's a duet called Nobody Breaks a Heart. And it was, like, Sarah and Jimmy singing this like a lovers duet, but it's just so much fun. It kind of reminds me of Slow Hands, but for country. It's really cool. Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see
maybe we'll hear it one day. Yeah, I mean, that's what deluxe albums are for. You know, them extra hidden gems.
I bother him every month about it.
Well, I look forward to hearing it, hopefully. So obviously you were just saying, like, very country. You've dabbled completely in the pop world too. One song that was kind of pretty big, Gavin DeGraw, who's huge. She Sets the City on Fire. So tell us a bit about how that all came about and how you kind of made that move from Nashville to, because I know he kind of is back and forth in Nashville a little bit as well. Yeah. But was it an LA thing, or how did it work?
Actually, no. It was so that's what's so great about having an amazing publisher. My publisher is my manager as well. She's, like, one of my besties. She, at that point in country music, I think this was a few years ago, it had turned to kind of like a little bro-y kind of thing, and I just wasn't good at it. and I mean, I've tried, but I just couldn't like really nail it down. And Stephanie, as any good publisher should like think about, like she was so good about like thinking, I think he's bored. I want, and she knew how much I just loved pop music, and she, a buddy of mine, one of my really good friends, Todd Clark, he's a pop producer, but we'd always tried to write country songs, and they were always cool. But Stephanie one day just was like, "Hey, you guys need to write a pop song. That's no country. I want to hear what you guys come up with because that's Todd's big strength."
Mm-hmm.
And I just tried to apply lyrics to what he was doing, and so that was the first time we'd ventured into pop songs, and it turned out to be the Gavin thing, and so Todd's publisher was also a producer, and he heard what we had been working on, the chorus, and we had the workings of She Sets the City on Fire. I had the idea for like the longest time, and somehow his producer got it to Gavin, and then we all started collaborating on it. And in the pop world, it happened so fast. Mm-hmm. We weren't even like done with the song, and the label was like, "This is the single."
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here like, because in country world, it takes like a year for a song to come out, mm-hmm. wait for it to make the record. What's the single going to be like? And in pop, it's like, this is dope. It's going to come out tomorrow. So it was so exciting because I've never, and that really like busted a lot of doors down for me, for all of us actually, you know, because it did really well. And then I got addicted to watching charts. You know, I was just like waking up every day going, yes, it moved 30 spins today. But yeah, she was the one who really pushed the pop writing, and since then she's, you know, opened so many doors for me because of that one write. And me and my buddy now, we write all the time for pop acts that come through Nashville, or I go to LA or London, mm-hmm. and just write, you know, emotional, cool stuff.
Yeah.
So that was all her. So I wouldn't have thought like we could do that in Nashville, honestly.
Yeah.
But now all this is happening more and more. You know, I feel like people are coming here because of the songwriters. You know.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a huge thing now. People coming to Nashville to either write or to like record their albums. I mean, so many Nashville writers have got cuts on pop records. You know, people like Tyler Johnson, and like even you look at like Mara Morris, who writes with pop writers, and look at how that goes.
Yeah, that went pretty well. Maren's so good. She's unreal. You know. She's a world-class star. So that's glad everyone sees that, because it's like she's just so dope, it's unreal. So
yeah, she plays over here quite a bit, and I actually got to go to her before Girl came out. She did like the Taylor Swift things. Well, I got to go to one of them, and I remember hearing that record and being like, that's it, she's done.
Oh my
she can
God.
retire.
I mean, how awesome. I RSVP. I have that like.
Yeah.
I love that song. It's so good. There's so many great writers on that, and it's like, she's just so good. She'd be winning Grammys for the rest of her life.
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely, like, transferring to the pop world, obviously, as you were saying, opened a lot of doors.
Yeah.
Do you still feel like your country, or do you want to explore that more and more?
I feel like no, I'm definitely still a Texas boy, you know, who listen. When I have a couple whiskeys, I want to jam George Strait for like 8 hours and call everyone and tell them how great this song is from 1989. But no, it really has like opened, you know, like I said, opened a lot of doors. I always want to keep expanding writing, just as I mean, my whole goal, I remember telling my last deal And my managers, kind of our mantra is like, we don't want to be like just really good or really great country songwriters. We want to be really great writers.
Yeah.
Like I love to, one of my favorite things, and I've been working on it for a decade basically, is being able to like write a Ann Womack song, and that same day, like, which it had happened, I had a Ann Womack song come out the same day I had a EDM DJ Swedish song come out.
Mm-hmm.
So I just would love to navigate both of those worlds, and you know, be able to go into like, because I had loved like being the lyric guy and going into like a hip hop room,
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing how rappers do their thing. I'm just so, I get so obsessed with different kinds of music,
Yeah.
and there's something beautiful and creative in every community, and the people, like, you know, just going to London this last year, just fell in love with everyone there.
Yeah.
You guys just drink pints in the middle of the day, which is so dope. It's just the coolest thing ever. I mean, and this whole conversation has been really hard for me not to try to do an English accent. So,
well, it's all right. We haven't got much longer left, so you've got to keep it in. Right. So I'm gonna, for people listening, I'm gonna kind of just shout a few of the songs that you've written in the past few years that have come up.
Sure.
So Hopeless, Cassie Ashton, as we were saying, Ann Womack, Bottom of the Barrel, Abby Anderson, Guy Like You, Brandy Clark, Bad Car, and one of my favourite songs, Kelly Bannon, Boys Don't Cry.
Oh yeah.
Love Kelly. So underrated, I think.
She's so good.
She's so great. So over, obviously, and so many more hits alongside those. But over the years, are there any kind of songs that have been cut or even haven't been cut? Any songs or experiences or writes that just stick out and you think that was a really great day, or that's a really great song?
Yeah, no, I think I mentioned to you before, probably like the most memorable musical day for me was I got to write with Burt Bacharach.
Yeah.
And I got to go to LA, and it was magical. Like, and he does it like old school pop. Like I had to send him just lyrics, no music at all. He just asked me to send, you know, and it was really cool. The first time we ever wrote, I had to fly out to LA with my publisher and just talk to him for a couple hours, sit in his house in like the Palisades in California, and walk into a room with Oscars and Grammys and, you know, raindrops keep falling on my head, you know, all these like amazingly historical songs, honestly, and just kind of sit there, and it was like I sat there with them for 2 hours. We talked about music, we talked about life, and I went back to Nashville thinking, wow, that was the coolest thing ever. And then he called my publisher and was like, I need him back here in 2 weeks. Can have him send me a couple of songs. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, do I learn how to play piano? Like, do I try to write what the world needs now is love, sweet love? I have no idea. But yeah, no. So my publisher basically was just like, you just pretend like you're writing like a John Legend song with no music. And so it was really cool. It was I sent him lyrics. I flew back out there. He played it for me on the piano. Then he left the room for like an hour and let me just have a moment with the music and what he had done with it. And I just adjusted a few things. It was just the coolest way to write. It was kind of, not comparing myself to that, but like Elton and Bernie, like one did lyric and one did music. And that's, Bert did that with like his famous songwriter, Hal David, I think. And so he just doesn't, you know, I asked him a question one day while we were hanging out at his house, and I was asking him about some race horses that he had. And I was like, so do you train these race horses? And he goes, Jason, I don't train horses like I don't write my own lyrics. And I was like, that's fucking Bert. That's great. Oh, I'm sorry. I just said the F word.
It's all right.
But it was a beautiful, magical experience for me. Like we left that day. My publisher came to pick me up from his house, and I had to just like pull over on the Pacific Coast Highway and just was like, that just happened. We wrote a song, and you know, that was probably the most like, I've never been starstruck by anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And he was 88 at the time we wrote.
Wow.
And it was unreal. Like his piano playing is beautiful. It's like he's one of the greatest melody guys who have ever lived. So it was really, really cool.
That is awesome. So unfortunately, the time has literally flown, but we're going to have to kind of start to wrap things up. But just kind of, what have you got coming up? Is there anything you can tell us about? Any songs, any collaborations for the next months?
I'm hoping there's a few things. Obviously, bother Jimmy about that song because that thing's going to happen. Me and my buddy Todd, and actually we wrote a song with Cassie Ashton that was like so super cool pop that it ended up feeling not too country, and Todd took it. So basically he pitched it to Elle King.
Oh wow, nice.
And Elle came over maybe a month or two ago. Well, maybe it was before the COVID stuff happened. She loved the song, so she put her vocal on it. I've heard it since. I'm just really excited about that. We don't know, obviously, we're just hoping good things happen with that.
Yeah.
I've had Banners is another guy from Liverpool.
Yeah.
He's a top guy that is just so incredibly talented.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few things with him coming up. Trying to think of a few other things. A lot of pop things right now, but a lot of like, Little Big Town still doing their thing with that record, and it's so beautiful. So I can't wait to see how Wine, Beer, and Whiskey do.
Yeah.
And this thing like trucking with them. And Brandy's album is just great.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to be on that with her. So I'm trying. Yeah, there's a few, hopefully some things in the fire that I'm like.
Awesome. Lots to catch up on. So before I know you're gonna sing for us and play for us, but I'm going to ask you my 3 questions that I end every interview with. I ask everyone the same 3 questions. They're all based on 3s. So firstly, 3 songs that you wish you'd have written.
Oh, I love these kind of questions. Okay. Yesterday, Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. Teenage Dream.
Yeah, classic.
and to go country, Marina Del Rey, an old George Strait song, but still probably my favorite country song ever.
Amazing. And then 3 albums that you couldn't live without.
Oh yeah. Oasis. What's the Story? Morning Glory.
Yeah.
Whiskey Town. Do you know all about Whiskey Town?
I've heard it, yeah.
Oh, so good. That's my like driving album. Is a Whiskey Town. Stranger's Almanac is Whiskey Town's the band, and Stranger's Almanac's the record. And then honestly, love it so much. 1989.
Yeah.
1989 is my jam.
Absolutely. There's some great songs on there. Some great songs.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening, Taylor Swift record. Such a great one.
Yes, yeah.
And then finally, 3 writers. I mean, I know you've written with some greats, but 3 writers that you haven't written with that you would love to write with.
Oh. Favorite all-time country music writer is this guy named Bob McDill.
I know the name.
Bob is he quit. He's done with it. But if he ever wants to come out of retirement, I'm here, bro. Let's do it. Julia Michaels.
Yeah.
Julia is amazing. And back to country, I'd go, he's an artist, but he's a writer, obviously, Eric Church.
Amazing.
I think that guy's so good.
Yeah, and again, he writes so many on his own that are just killers.
It's just amazing record.
They are good answers. Thank you so much. So as I said, we are going to have to wrap things up. So I will leave the floor to you. But thank you so much for being a part of it and coming on and telling us the stories. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was awesome. I wish we had more time to talk about England because it's awesome.
Anytime. Well, when you're here next.
Yeah.
There we go.
You can take me to Harry Potter world. I'm in.
There we go.
Yes.
So yes, I will leave the floor to you. Whatever you want to play.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Let's make sure this guy's all good to go. Well, I'm going to attempt my version of Trouble with Forever. So, sorry to all the people who know how good Karen sings this song. She said forever's gonna be like this. Class ring promise and a shotgun kiss. And blue jean smoke and backseat dreams. Make kids in love believe anything. She can feel rain in July without thinking about him. And he can see top-down old Jeeps without thinking about her. We love how forever begins. But the trouble with forever is it always ends. She thought love was a pretty white dress. He thought the work was done. She said yes. And 300 people heard him say I do. But there was no one there when they said we're through. She can't help sometimes wishing that they could start over. And he knows there's so many things that he could have told her. We love how forever begins. But the trouble with forever is it always ends. He holds her hand and she says goodbye. 50 years in the blink of an eye. As close to forever as you ever get. The trouble with forever is it always ends. The trouble with forever is it always ends.